let's go into this list. So we have a Dread Mob, 1995 points, with Ghazghkull Thraka. Yes, my boy did it. He brought Ghaz. 2 units of Big Mech with shock attack guns, one with Get Finder Goggers, which is mandatory, and then one with Smoky Gubbins, which I always say isn't mandatory, but you usually some have like weird points left in anyway. We have 2 10-man units of boys, followed by 5 10-man units of Grot, 3 trucks, 1 5-man units of flash kits, a Gorkanaut, a fat 6-man unit of kilocans, 2 max unit of rockets. These spanners, sorry, I said rockets. A max unit of Ludas, but the 2 spanners having rockets. These units have rockets instead of custom mega blasters. When I asked him why, he would give you guys the reason of this. He likes the more reliable damage, and he likes it into blast, which ended up coming into play in his win path. He has 2 Mega Knobs to go alongside Ghaz. They have twin kill cells. And then 2 Storm Boys 5-man unit. So really cool. Now, some of you may be looking and going, Ghaz and Dread Mob, what the heck? It really does make sense because a lot of things in Dread Mob aren't holding the ground in the mid table. The units that you would think would, maybe something like a Killican or, you know, some Death Dreads or a couple Dreadnoughts, Morkanauts, Torkanauts, they can get kind of anti-tanked out of the picture. So Ghaz running on a 2-up invuln when it's time for Makari to take those saves is a big deal. Giving an Ortha and melee to lethals that maybe units wouldn't take advantage of the Dread Mob like the boys or the Flash Kits also comes into play. And then, of course, you can end up popping the sustain and lethal because we pop lethal from the wall, and then you pop lethal from Dread Mob for your something like your Gorkanaut. Sorry, sustain from Dread Mob from your Gorkanaut, and then you're getting both in his maybe sweep attacks, whatever it may be, right? So there's ways you can get cool combinations out with Ghaz, but also Ghaz gives you that nice thick damage in the middle of the table to punch out land raiders, which some Dread Mob lists actually greatly struggle with. We know Orcs as a whole struggle with things like that. So the fact that Ghaz can run out and participate in the mid table, really meet all those different stat checks is a big deal and a nice factor. Makes you feel good when someone tries to just throw something in the middle and you really just kind of want to shoot away all his scoring units and such, which are more so what Luda is actually better at doing because 2-up saves they don't really love. So having something like Ghaz, but then you also have the Gorkanaut on there, makes it so you have double the thickness and punching power while you still retain some of the shooting. So this is a very much a combined arm sort of army. I really like it. He has a lot of reps and plays into it. So it very much comes down to his skill as well, which is why I do say if you have some kind of favoritism towards this style and design, take it a look. Today's sponsor, Baron of Dice. So Baron of Dice has great dice. They have actually enabled us to give these dice out for our paint competitions. So I greatly advise that you go out there. We have a link in the description for 5% discount. That's, of course, because nobody likes taxes. Shout out to Baron of Dice because they are actually customizing orc dice just for us that you guys will be able to get a hold of, and they look exceptional. So shout out to Baron of Dice. Really appreciate you guys, and I really do suggest you get them. I love the actual texture these dice have. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So let's take a look at his win path. So for his first game, he went into Deathwing Dark Angels Inner Circle Knights. Now he has, sorry, they weren't Deathwing Knights. They're called Dark Angels Inner Circle Task Force. Excuse me, guys. And he called it a Deathwing. So we have Azrael, a Librarian Terminator armor, a lieutenant, and a lieutenant with combi weapons. He has 2 units of Deathwing Knights, a thick big unit of 10 Deathwing Terminators, which are basic Terminators, a Hellblaster squad, Inner Circle Companions, Repulsor Executioners, and then 2 Scouts. Though this list may seem potent, it does have good utility and killing potential. Based off of what Russell Graham, kind of said, it was a pretty straightforward game for him. It seems like he was, first of all, a better player, of quote unquote, or more a seasoned player, I guess we would say, at this kind of sort of events and how this interactions would go. Right? He understood the opponent's list better than the opponent understood his. Therefore, when it was time for these Terminators to move around, they simply walked, and he overwatched them with Ludas and picked up 4 of them. Like we said, he has rockets, so those rockets went off on blast. You end up getting sustained, and then all of a sudden you're just picking these dudes up when they really don't expect it. So picking up 4, almost half the unit, just simply from Overwatch can swing the game. But he pretty much was saying that's how a lot of it went, where he was overwatching, picking up units all over the place left and right, wasn't really respected by his opponent to that degree, and had good plays and placement. So shout out to him. Not easily done. And, sometimes the dice can help you. And then sometimes you can just pick up dudes on Overwatch and it still counts because, if you're an org player, that happens to you. So that's a great use of stratagems and Overwatch. And that's a consistent thing we see with Dread Mob. You really want to take advantage of the Ludas and their Overwatch. It's essentially another shooting phase because they innately already shoot on 6s. So Overwatch just feels natural to them. Giving them sustain and then rerolls really takes a difference of that too. So it's all good. Then we have his second game. which was Necrons Awakened Dynasty. He was pretty happy about this game because he's had issues with Necrons from last tournament. Shout out. He had Chronomancer, Necron the Nightbringer. He had Hexmark Destroyer, Locust Destroyer, Royal Warden, Scorpec Lord, Technomancer, Immortals, Canoptic Wraiths, Doom, 2 Doomstar Arc, a Locust Heavy Destroyer, Ophidian Destroyer, and then a big brick of Scorpec Destroyers. I almost read that name wrong. So he has a bunch of destroyers on the list. Pretty good at killing, really. Ophidian Destroyers are a little faster than you expect. And he was playing Awakened Dynasty, which these guys want to survive. They're a bit their durability aspect in them, very cool. But in this case, he was quite familiar with them, but he also said he was quite comfortable with the terrain as there was crates in the middle of the table, and the Gorkanaut was able to move over them and get a nice charge into the heavy destroyers and kill them, and then ended up taking his backfield objective. So a lot of the time when you're playing with something like a Gorkanaut, especially into Necrons who don't love big heavy duty high toughness units, when you just shove them kind of in their face. There's other armies will play like Grey Knights that don't like that either. If you have your Gorkanaut, just be hyper aggressive and try to get it on their side of the table, right? Sometimes I just look at these matchups and I'm like, I'm putting my big boy on your home objective. You got to stop him. I'm not really thinking too hard about it. I'm just trying to get there. And that's what happened. He ended up getting there. Of course, when you take someone's home objective in Nexus and you're punching him off it could be a big deal. So overall, he was just hustling, bustling over the table, really took control of that game and was able to kill things systematically as he had to. Now, into his third game, he went into Astra Millitarum. This list was called Trench. He had a Canadian Command Squad. Canadian Command Squad, Gaunt's Ghost, which is a nice little janky, gimmicky kind of unit, but it does have infiltration, and it does have other data sheet abilities and stats like stacking buffs they can get as each person in this unit's a character. They have Lord Solar Leontis, a tank commander, and then they have Iron Hand Strachan. So Iron Hand Strachan may seem kind of memeish, but I promise you he's not. You may think that because he comes off being memeish as he's a part of a Catachan leader, but if this person is a Mordian Glory watcher, as sometimes I am, shout out to Mordian Glory, you can see that he's in favor of them because they give you the nice punching factor that these guys normally fail to get. So he actually gives the Catachans lethal hits, and then each time he makes a charge, he can reroll the hit and the wound roll himself. Because this model. He's anti-floor plus monsters, and he's 6 attacks, hitting on 2, strength 6, -2 damage. Alongside, of course, all of the little Catachans that are in his unit, which are right here. Takes a nice simple unit, and they scout, right? So he has Cadians, 3 units of Catachans. That means these guys are all scouting. And then you can put all these guys in the Chimeras, and they can adopt the scouting keyword because these are dedicated transports, and you can scout right into the middle of the table. A fat unit of Bulgrin that can reduce damage because they're annoying. Lehman Rust Demolishers, 3 of those, really effective shooting profiles. A Scout Sentinel, and the Tempestus Silent Squad for scoring, and an Evisor Assassin. So Russell said in this list, he felt like he just messed up on the deployment. He deployed badly. He felt like his plan wasn't even really that good. And when he brought the Killicans in from Strategic Reserve, failed to destroy Lehman Rust despite using 2 strats. So he would tell them to re-roll shots and big shells for bigger gets. I've had this experience too, dude, because they're blast. They're not a reliable amount of shots. They also only have -2 AP. They can totally fail. Killicans are not where it's at for reliable outcomes in shooting. Even with the 2 CP investment, it's crazy. Just Killicans, as much as you really want them to work, they just really aren't working, dude. Like for me either. They can work on this list, and of course Clifton can make them work, but I mean, they don't do reliable work where you need them to, and they can end up throwing a game just like that. So he ended up just losing a bunch of kills. He ended up getting killed just pretty hard in return from that. And you can see just Guard have a lot of weapons and tools into this. The Demolisher cannons would annihilate the Gorkanaut right away. Volume of Fire eventually would shoot through Ghaz and everything, and you're just stuck just getting outstatted sometimes, and that's what Guard right now currently do really, really well until Orcs. And it's just going to be a constant hard hill to climb. If it's an optimized Guard player and a Guard list with a good, equally skilled Guard player, a lot of the times he's going to have a lot of leverage on you, and you're just going to have to know that going into the matchup. Try to do as best as you can. So Russell Graham took that loss, but he went to his 4th game. He went into his Eldar. It was a Prince Yariel, a Spirit Seer. Oh, sorry. And this was a Aeldari Strike Force Battle Host. It was like a Wraith list like design. He had 2 units of Guardian Defenders, Ranger, Warlock Conclave, 3 units of Wraith Guards, 1 with the Ghost Swords, 1 with the Force Ghost Axe, and then 1 with the Wraith Cannon. 1 big Wraith Knight, possibly for fun, but the guy was, well, from what he said, it was actually a skilled player, but this was a bit more him just trying to have fun with the faction, which I get it. You don't want to keep playing the same detachment rules, quote unquote, like I said earlier, for Orcs. So this Eldar player probably was, but he's a very seasoned Eldar player. So it was a lot of synergy on this list. And then he had a Wraith Lord, 3 of those, which I think for 145 isn't that bad. So shout out to him for this list. He said it was really fun. It was a top player. The Gorkanaut and the Wraith Knight had an epic fight, but honestly, he felt like he was pretty much in control in this matchup and had a pretty easy win. Of course, between Overwatch and the volume of fire, none of those units have great 2-up armor saves, and whittling that down. Of course, you can also pressure Eldar once you start becoming leftover anyways, so that's just how it is. Then we have his 5th matchup. Sorry, guys, making sure I'm not jumping places here because there's a lot of stuff to manage. He went into Tyranids, and he called this num list. He has a Neuro Tyrant, 1 unit of Gargoyles, 1 unit of Hormagaunts, 1 unit of Biovores, 3 Exocrines because they're amazing, 2 Lictors, 3 Maleceptors because they're also amazing, 2 units of Neurolictors, 2 units of Radveners, a Tyrannofex, followed by 2 units of Von Ryan Leapers. So he said, again, a fairly comfortable win. Whenever he put things on objectives, he simply just annihilated them with Ludas. He got Ghaz involved with the heroic intervention. And then he got into range of the Tyrannofex, but didn't kill him fully. But he did end up killing him eventually. He said he also left boys in his home field so they could sticky the objective. That way, when he did Shadow of the Warp, he wouldn't lose his own field objective and wouldn't lose primary. It was purge the foe. So him being able to kill more stuff like these Von Ryan Leapers, these Ravengers, these individual lictors and characters, as he's killing all these things, he's getting purge the foe and just kind of annihilating them. So that ended up making a big deal for him, and it felt really good. Remember, the Ludas have nasty range, 48-inch range, and then when you get close, they get close. And Exocrines can actually get picked up by our stuff in return. And they don't do great into high toughness things. So a lot of the time, these Exocrines are going to be focusing down that Gorkanaut if they can, hoping that he feels battle shock, things like that. So that means you really just kind of take it to them and try to beat them up. Don't try to go late, long game with Tyranids as an Orc player. Really just try to demolish them, which is what he did in his last game. So shout out to Russell Graham for his Dread Mob list. Of course, it was a bit different. He still had a ton of unit of Gretchens to hold, break, play the primary, play the secondary, screen, stop people from getting places, possibly reactionary move, 10-man units of boys for skirmishing, which felt really good, most likely, and the flashes if he had to. Of course, you can put these things in the Gorkanauts if you want. Storm boys, of course, because 1 unit should be in deep strike at least, if not both. And then gas, that way you can still play the mid-table bully. Ended up being a huge factor. He really said that he's gonna end up taking this list to another big 900-person event. He said he's gonna keep the Killicans, which, my friend, you're the one doing the performance here, but it's just maybe you find something else for the Killicans. I don't know, right? Maybe Zod, just considering. But he does want to do 1 melee unit, so he's considering scrap jets and dealing with enemy infiltrators. But like I said, you really might want Zod for this, and maybe even commandos. Who knows? But Zod, because he can do what you said based off, and I'm replying essentially to Russell Graham right now, guys, if you know. Based off what his notes said, he wanted to deal with infiltrators and cheap trash. Zod kind of helps with that, because even if they do infiltrate, kind of stop you, you can run up and beat the crap out of them with Zod and the super grots. And then it does cause bait and reactions from your enemy opponents. I don't like the turn throw Zod away turn 1, but I'm just saying, if you're having these interactions, there are answers, and I do think Killicans maybe can be less CP investment because they're kind of not worth it for like reliable outcomes, which you're going to a 900-person event. So you choose what you want to do, because you did say boys and trucks, and you can see you already had boys. You did say war bosses and trucks, so you already had boys. So I think those are better way to go. Killicans, I'm just not feeling my get. And as for, like I said, he's really into Ghaz for the flat 3 damage, and he's really into the rockets for the Ghaz for the flat 4 damage, and the rockets for the flat 3 damage. So shout out to my boy Graham Russell, who's in our Discord. Shout out to you and your great Dread Mob. Whoa! For making the Gorkanaut shine, making the Killicans, making it up to a podium, and really playing all the units that I love to play, including Ghaz. So shout out to you, Graham Russell. I really liked your list, and I definitely look forward to seeing how you do going forward. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!